Hang on. Stop it.
Welcome to Survive and Advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care, the future of sports medicine. If you want to find out more about Replenishing Care or the dog barking in the background, just go to the Replenishing Care banner on thegruelytruth.net and check out the banner. I'm your host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and, of course, my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Raisley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great, Mike. How you doing this morning? Happy 4th of July to you on the 5th.
All right. And, yes, of course, we couldn't have a show on the 4th because Steve had to play golf.
I played very well. Picked up the new TaylorMade M3 driver. Holy cow.
Are they a sponsor for our show?
I'm trying to make them one right now, Mike, okay? I'm going to promote the hell out of their driver.
They're getting it for free.
I got it for free, basically. I got it for free.
It's like a girl that sleeps with you on the first date. You're not buying that one.
I didn't buy it.
But you've already given it to him for free, Steve. Now we can't marry him.
Well, we just throw a teaser out there at him, and TaylorMade would be a great sponsor for this show.
Yes, it would.
No, it wouldn't, because you don't like golf.
I love golf. All right, next up.
You don't like golf.
You're such a hater. All you got to do is pick at me all the time. I'm getting tired of it, Steve. So since I'm getting tired of it, I got your replacement. I mean, our guest today on the show from Canada, Lukas Weese. You can hear the crowd in the background. The dogs are yelling, Weese. Go ahead.
Yeah. I got the dog barking in the background for me, so good start to the day.
All right, and let's start off NBA news, where the Indiana Pacers signed Tyreke Evans, which I know we talked about this a couple days ago, Steve. I think this is a great signing for the Pacers.
Lucas, take it away.
Well, I would happen to agree with you, Mike, with LeBron James now out of the Eastern Conference. You got to realize the Pacers, if it wasn't for poor officiating, they probably would have won that series against the Cavs in 7 games. Tyreke Evans is a great pickup, and I think playing alongside Oladipo, this is a team that I think can really contend to make the Eastern Conference Finals this upcoming season.
All right, Steve, what's your take on it?
I don't think he's going to be a big enough impact player he's a good player. He'll fill his role. He'll do fine for the Pacers, but I don't think he's going to take the Pacers to the next level, which they're at that point now. For them to make any improvements, they've got to get a player in that's going to take them up to the next level to where they're going to be able to consistently contend with Boston. They're not there. This player doesn't take them there. I put more faith in Holiday to provide more input into the team at this point in time. He was more of a necessity for the team. It's a good pickup, I guess, but I don't see this kid taking the Pacers to the next level of intensity. And they're still going to be sitting there behind Philadelphia and Boston in the East and contending for third or fourth, seed in the East. And they'll not get past either the Celtics or Philadelphia, most likely.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of guy they do need to try to keep up with him. It's a guy that shot 40% from the three-point range for his career, averages 16, 17 points a game. I think it helps. I think it would take a lot to get up to the Boston level, but I think maybe they could compete with Philly. And if you're in the top 3, Steve, you got a shot at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I think the Pacers now have put themselves in position. They need to be doing like what the Lakers did. They need to be going after a franchise player, because the Lakers were not as good as the Pacers before LeBron came. Now the Lakers are better than the Pacers. They made the one move LeBron will beat the Pacers when they come and play.
He did last year. Officials did. If the officials are on his side, he's got a chance. But I think
exactly. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but I don't think this LeBron team is as good as Cleveland is right now. No, I don't know.
If
LeBron was still with Cleveland. If LeBron was still with Cleveland.
Yeah, but the upside potential of the Lakers right now. I mean, out here in LA, the talk is this, and it really makes a lot of sense. They signed all these wacky veterans to contracts, but if you notice, they signed them all to one-year deals. And essentially, what the sportscasters out here are pointing out clearly is they were brought in solely to train and educate the young talent, core talent that the Lakers have. That it shows a commitment to me by bringing these old players in. The Lakers are making a commitment to the young core of their team, and they still believe LeBron's got a couple good solid years on him. Are the Lakers going to contend this year? No. But if these old veterans come in here and help develop this young talent, are the Lakers going to contend next year? I don't think anybody's going to contend against Golden State for a while, but they're going to contend. The Pacers, I don't think, but what their additions are, elevated them to a higher level of contending. They just made their team better. I still think they need a beast inside. Miles Turner's got to improve. He's got to get more. He's got the skills. He just somehow doesn't have the confidence to go out and do it every night for the Pacers. But I don't think the trade or the acquisition for the Pacers was as relevant as LeBron was. In terms of name recognition, sure. LeBron's already paid his salary back in Los Angeles. I mean, ticket sales have gone through the roof. Merchandise has gone through the roof. We kind of had a discussion about this. He's paid his $153 million back already to the Lakers. They've already paid that salary for the next 4 years. But what the Pacers need to do to get in contention is get a physical presence inside to complement Oladipo. I think Aaron Holiday is going to be a player for him. Collison's a player. They have talent on that team. And I think at some point they're going to have to move coaches too. I just don't think Nate is going to be able to coach that team to get the Pacers to the next level.
All right, so
that's my point. I'm sticking to it.
Let's transition to the NFL. Probably the biggest news there, Lucas, is Julian Edelman has lost his appeal and will be suspended 4 games for PED use. The thing that gets me here, and this is kind of what we talked about with the NFL last year, is Edelman's defense focused on 2 key issues in the appeal, which was held June 25th. The first was that the substance for which Edelman tested positive wasn't one even recognized by league drug testers. The second, according to a source, involved mishandling of the documentation and delivery of Edelman's test results. During the course of the investigation, it was learned that the NFL made mistakes in the manner in which the tests were even handled. I think this is the NFL overstepping their bounds again, Lucas.
Once again, it's the NFL being sadly judge, jury, and executioner. They're not looking at the whole picture. And, a great player like Edelman, who provides a lot of entertainment at that wide receiver position, now has to pay the price. Look, I don't think it's going to impact the Pats that much. It's 4 games. Edelman was gone for the whole year. They made the Super Bowl, could have even won the Super Bowl. So I don't think it won't make a huge impact on the Pats side of things in terms of how they, they'll still be a contending team. But to me, it's once again the NFL abusing their power and, not really looking at the full picture here and laying down an unnecessary suspension.
Yeah, Steve, you got an opinion on this one?
Yeah, I do. And this is, let me just take a 180 on this whole thing. The NFL doesn't need our permission to do what they want to do and how they want to police their own employees. Okay? And it's not a publicly traded company. It's not a government-run company. People don't get to make decisions. The NFL has a right, and they work it all through the collective bargaining agreement with the NFLPA. Those parameters are all set down in stone. So if they choose to lower the suspension of Jameis Winston or go ahead and, that's between the NFL and the NFLPA. And we always want to be judge, jury, and convict the NFL for wrongdoing. They're just running their business how they choose to run their business. And they have every right to do that. And, PEDs are out. You shouldn't get caught. You shouldn't do it and all this stuff tainted. The one thing I think the NFL does is, especially with the Jameis Winston stuff, where they did suspend him, I think their investigative process is probably more thorough than what the local DAs are in most of these things. Yeah, I think they probably have some better people digging into things.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Well,
I don't. And this is
that's a matter of opinion.
It's not a matter of opinion. You look at the Bountygate investigation, the Deflategate investigation. All of these investigations have proven that mishandling of evidence is what they do. And here, Julian Edelman was suspended for something where the NFL said that they're suspending him because it's unrecognizable. They're not even saying what it is. On top of that, they mishandled evidence. Yeah, the thing
and they
is
don't have to say what it is. They don't have to. They don't owe us to
they do have to say
it's
what
an internal
it is in
investigation.
A court. No, they just did this in a court, Steve. They did it in a court, and I mean, the thing is, this is going to go to a federal court, and I have a huge problem because we don't even know what this is, and they're going to suspend him for 4 games. If you go to a regular court and you get convicted of something, that happens where they got to tell you. But on top of it, I don't think in the collective bargaining agreement it says that the NFL is allowed to mishandle the evidence.
Yeah, we can pick everything apart. I just think there's just every time.
That's the biggest thing there.
Every time something. I just don't believe that the NFL spins the wheel in Roger Goodell's office and spins and comes up on Julius Edelman, and he comes out and says, let's go screw with Julius Edelman. Let's just go make something up, mishandle it, find some crap, and let's just suspend him. Why Julius Edelman? Why not? His name hits the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, there's something going on there.
Because the NFL is about control.
It's a lot more than what we know. And, you know, these guys do this stuff all the time. It's rampant. And you know what? Probably a small percentage of them get caught. And somebody gets caught, and then we want to say the NFL screwed everything up. Maybe they did. I just think every time we want to blame Goodell and the NFL because players are idiots, essentially. And they put themselves in positions to get into the situation. You know, why don't they just keep their nose clean, go about their life, invest their money, donate their time that they have? But they don't. They choose to be at bars at 3 o'clock in the morning with a gun stuck in the sweatpants in your pocket.
What's that got to do with
they choose to go out drunk. It has to do with the general scope of players in the NFL.
Okay. Yeah,
well, look,
I
think you got to
I guess I'm done with my opinion.
The Players Association. You got to blame the Players Association when they did the collective bargaining a few years back for giving someone like Roger Goodell this much power. I know for a fact that when this CBA expired and both the NFL and the NFLPA come back to the negotiating table, this is going to be one of the big discussion points on the table. I think there's going to be disagreement on both sides, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lockout. I mean, because clearly, as you've alluded to, Mike, there have been botched investigations in the past, Bountygate, Deflategate. Look, Steve, I think your point, you're right. I mean, I think, the NFL, gets a lot of hate with these investigations, but at the end of the day, it's too much power for one person, Roger Goodell. I think it needs to be changed in the negotiating process of the new collective bargaining because this just can't happen.
Yeah, and Steve,
with that, Lucas, I agree. Lucas, I agree with you entirely. But you know what? The NFLPA gave him that power.
Right, and you got to blame them for that.
They gave him that power. Well, I'm just saying, the thing about sports, Mike, that when you go play, you play on the field that you have in front of you. You don't wish you could play on a different court or different field. That's the field that's in front of us right now. That's the field you step on when you go coach or I go play or Lucas goes and writes. And that's the field that the NFL is playing on right now with the NFLPA. Live by it. Like Lucas said, if you want to change it, change it.
Steve,
bargain,
that would be fine,
strike,
but
do whatever
you
you want
can't
to do.
Change it. This is bullshit, Steve. All right? From talking to Jerry Ball and all these investigations, the NFLPA has always been bought off. The players don't have a choice in this. I mean, if you go back and listen to our interview with Jerry Ball where he goes through exactly how Gene Upshaw was bought off, which is why – okay, well, it didn't happen then. I mean, it's the players' fault that the guys that run their union were bought off. It's the players today's fault. And the thing is this, if you go on strike, the only person that gets hurt are the players. These owners are millionaires. They don't care.
And the fans.
They're still going to survive.
Right. I'm with you. I'm just saying that's the playing field we're on right now. I mean, if the NFL is getting bad representation and people get PAs getting, they need to change. They elect who represents them. The players vote on Gene Upshaw or whoever's running the NFLPA right now. They vote those people in. It's just like we elect our idiot congressmen and senators. You know, you want to change things, vote them out.
Okay, but just like
get good people in.
Hold on. The way we elect our people, you can't vote them out because we don't get to pick who gets to be our president. We get to select from the people that are picked by us. And what the NFLPA gets to do is the people that are running have to be approved by the NFL owners. They've been bought off by the NFL owners since the early 1980s, late 1970s. So when you look at it, you know, you're picking between somebody that's going to screw you over. I mean, if you look at it right now, the NFLPA is not doing anything for the players that won the concussion lawsuit that, you know, are supposed to get their money. So what I'm tired of is this. I'm tired of a judge, jury, and executioner with no proof. And I think it's really a slippery slope when you have something here where even the NFL admits that it mishandled the evidence, but you're still going to suspend the guy. And then when you ask the NFL, they say it's unrecognizable and you can't give me, well, they don't have to tell what it is. They tell what it is on everybody else. You know, and they'll give these guys prescription drugs and everything else that are a lot worse on them than weed, but they'll ban them for weed. So I just think overall this is just a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah, and Mike, I honestly agree with you in this case. I agree with you. But in general and principle, the first thing the players have got to do is to take that power away from the NFL to approve who they want being head of their NFLPA. That's got to be the first thing that's got to change. So you got to put pieces together here. And if they're allowing the NFL owners to approve who's going to run their union, then what the hell's the point of the union? Why even have a union?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's bullshit. That's BS. Yeah, I call BS union on that big time.
Yeah, but you know what?
The owners should have no say, and then it's not a union. It's genuinely not a union.
The problem is this with most unions anymore. They aren't unions, whether it's football or not. No. I mean, a lot.
Right.
Put it like this. I was a deckhead when I was young, like 20 years old, on a boat, a riverboat casino. And they wanted to have the Seafarers Union in there. So how did they do that? What they did is they put a couple plants on our boat from New York, you know, that talked up the union for like 3 weeks, got everybody to sign this paper except for me because I was railing against them. But you got everybody to sign this paper. Next thing you know, we're in a union. This is a union for a job that in 1992 was paying like $9 an hour that we had to pay the dues to. I mean, but when you look at the Seafarers Union,
it was actually,
it was owned by the boat. So the boat owned the union.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, you're right, Mike. I'm not debating you on anything specific because everything you've talked about so far is accurate. However, in the general principle of thing, the NFLPA has enough power that they've got to wrestle that back from the NFL. The owners should have no say in who the NFLPA elects to be their representative to the NFL to negotiate their deals. They should have no say in it whatsoever, and I would strike on that. I would just strike and say, we aren't even going to talk to you. We're not going to step for practice here, anything, until you deal with this. We pick who represents us, not the owners of the NFL. And then probably half these problems go away.
Yeah, but the thing is this. These players, the average NFL player is 3 years. You can't give up a whole year in a strike, and the player and the owners know that. That's why the owners in 1987 put their scab teams together and forced the hand. The NFL players then started to cross.
Right.
But, hey, real quick, guys, Steve, are you getting arrested, or is that Lucas?
That's not me.
No, not me either. I'm inside. It's
Mike, that's one of your kids driving your four-wheeler down the street. Your neighbor across the street is calling the cops on you again.
Oh, that neighbor.
Mike.
He hadn't had sleep in 3 days. Fireworks. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead.
All right, well, let me just close with this one thing. Let me just close with one thing, Mike. And on that, you know, if what you said is true and that the players are just screwed, then deal with it. You're telling me there's no resolution to bring fairness into the NFL. They're a privately held organization. They're not a publicly traded company. you're just screwed. Then live with it. Stop bitching about it. No, you don't like it? Go dig ditches. Go find another job. You and I have had this conversation many times before. Most professional athletes would tell you that if they could make the same kind of money they could do in any other job in the world, they'd go do that rather than play professional sports. Right? Have we not had that conversation?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So if you don't like the way the game's run, the way it's played, you don't like it, then just leave the game. Be a man about it. I don't like the way I'm being treated. I don't think it's fair. Get out of the sport. Guess what? The NFL will be around in 3 years when the guy with his average 3-year contract or career will not be.
All right, guys.
Just stop bitching about it.
Real quick. You stop bitching. All right. Real quick. We're going to take a commercial break for about 42 seconds to be exact. We'll be back to talk about the greatest team in NBA history. I know we've got Steven, Daryl, John, and Bob, who are all sending messages wanting to know when we're going to talk about that. So we will be back in 42 seconds.
Replenishing Technologies helps athletes of all levels train, recover, and perform at their absolute best. We do this by offering the PEMF 120, the world's leading pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device. Workouts, injury, and stress cause cells to lose their natural power. PEMF works like a battery charger, helping cells regain the power needed to dump toxins, take in oxygen and nutrients, and repair. 95% of athletes report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and they simply feel better after using PEMF 120. If you'd like to count yourself among that group, contact us at www.replenishingtechnologiesinc.com.
All right, guys, we're back on The Grueling Truth, Survive and Advance, our daily show. You can hear every noon Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, except for on days when Steve goes and golfs. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, with Steve Raisley, and our guest.
I golfed one time on a national holiday. I had a red, white, and blue golf bag with a flag on it. I had golf.
Hey, Steve, I applaud that.
I wore a red shirt. I wore a blue shirt, a red belt, and white shorts. I have the flag embroidered on my golf shoes. Okay, I am as patriotic as anybody in the world, and I chose on that day to honor my country by going out and leisurely playing 18 holes of golf. My deepest apologies to all the 22 people that listen to us.
Okay, if it was only 22 people,
right,
we wouldn't be doing the show. But, all right, and what if those 22 people are shut-ins? They got nothing else to do. They're sitting there waiting to hear Steve Raisley explain exactly what he's wearing, exactly what he's doing that day, and they don't get to hear it. It's just not fair to the people. All right, Lucas, the poll question.
Well, then, wait. Then those 22 people should form a group together collectively and solve the problems between the NFLPA and the NFL. 22 people could solve those problems. They should get together and do that. We'll have them as guests on our show.
All right. So far today, let's see here. The poll question.
We missed a bunch of news
today.
Real quick, can I just real quickly run through the news?
Yeah, let's do a 10-hour show.
Lonzo Ball has allegedly come out that Lonzo Ball has a torn meniscus.
Wow.
Okay, for the Lakers. They were keeping that quiet. Allegedly, out here in LA, they're talking about now it was leaked intentionally to make sure that Lonzo wasn't traded. Okay. Now, that's another story for another one. We'll investigate that more. Secondly, Tiger Woods, arguably one of the greatest golfers in the world, is losing his tournament. As you know, Jack Nicklaus has his own tournament, Memorial. Arnie Palmer has Bay Hill. And Tiger also was anointed with his own tournament in D.C. over the holiday weekend, 4th of July, honoring vets and servicemen. And the PGA is pulling the plug on that tournament now and taking that tournament away from Tiger. We'll do more research on that, and that's follow-up. For you, Mike, I'm going to tell you what, you people, I sat for most of it and watched 120 minutes of sheer boredom and then watched 10 of the greatest minutes of soccer I've ever seen in my life in a shootout between Colombia and England. I tell you what, you need to invest some time into soccer and get to know the sport a little bit better, Mike.
Yeah.
Parts of it are definitely boring and sad. Parts of it are definitely boring, but I tell you what, the shootout was as riveting and intense as any sporting thing I've seen, other than the end of the NASCAR race when Larson was taken out by Busch on the last lap because Larson tried to take Busch out and couldn't get it done right. So pay attention to soccer. It's not as bad as we think it is.
All right. Can we
That's
talk
all
about
I have
the
right
stuff
now.
people
We'll
are
follow up
waiting
with all
for us
those.
to talk about? All right.
Yes, let's go.
Because we got like 7 questions waiting on us on Spreaker. The question today was, are the Golden State Warriors the greatest team in NBA history? So far, it's like 52% no, 48% yes. Let's just go ahead and give me your take. Who you think the greatest team of all time is, Steve?
It's no doubt. Well, no, it's not Golden State. It's the Celtics of the 60s.
60s?
11 championships.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
57, 59. You said the greatest team of all time.
Oh, God.
They won 11 championships, 57, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 68, 69. They won 11 championships. That's the greatest team of all time. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's the Boston Celtics of the 60s.
Yeah.
They had every player was an all-star player on that team.
Yeah.
Every player was a great contributor to that team. They played roles. Red Auerbach led that team. Yeah. So, okay, well, go ahead.
Just answer me this question.
Pick your damn Celtics of the 80s.
Well, yeah, it was the 86 Celtics by far, but answer me this question. How many teams were in the league when they were dominating it?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't?
Because that's why you can't
really?
do these comparisons, because the playing field is never level. You can't compare Vince Lombardi to Bill Belichick, because they coached in different eras with different technology, different strategy, different equipment. You can't make the comparison. This is an inane exercise in opinions is what it is. But let's go through the process and let's do it. I say the Celtics of the 60s were the greatest dynasty in the NBA, and I don't think anybody will ever beat them.
Yeah. All right. Lucas?
Move on.
Well, I also agree that the Warriors are not the best team of all time. Again, it's, as Steve said, I mean, it's very difficult to compare teams between different eras. I mean, the Warriors are a team that rely heavily on the three-point shot. I mean, the teams that we're talking about today, especially those in the, 70s, 80s, 90s, basketball was physical back then. I mean, it was, defensive, and it was physical basketball, not like, the stuff that a lot of those players got away with back then would not have been able to get away with now. So definitely not the Warriors. I think time will tell in their place in history. I think there's a lot of history to be made, but right now they're definitely not the best team. But I would say the best team of all time, in my opinion, it's a toss-up for me between the 87 Lakers and the 95-96 Bulls. 87 Lakers, you can't beat Showtime. You can't beat the likes of Magic Johnson, who won MVP that year. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the best centers of all time. Byron Scott, big game James Worthy, who always would come up big in those big games. AC Green. That season, the Lakers' points per game, second in the league, 117.8. Their field goal percentage was second, 52%. Their three-point percentage was 37%. Magic in the finals, they beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games, the team that they lost to the year before. Magic averaged 26.2 points per game in the finals.
They didn't lose to them in 86. They lost to the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals in 5 games. The Rockets lost to the Celtics in 86.
Oh, right. Sorry, Sorry, it was a couple years ago. My bad. Sorry about that.
Hey, Mike.
But anyway, I'll just.
I know my shit, Steve.
I'll just finish with. Look, I think obviously, all these teams that we're talking about were great, but I got to go with Magic. I think Magic's one of the best players of all time. He led the NBA that season with 977 assists, 12.2 per game. I mean, just an all-star team.
Yeah, but
they were able to beat a Celtics team. They were able to beat a Celtics team that had Larry Bird,
don't give me that.
Robert Parrish,
Come on.
Kevin McHale. Come on.
How old are you?
22.
You do
22.
realize that Kevin McHale played with a broken leg or a broken foot. He had a broken bone in his foot. I mean, Bill Walton wasn't even able to play but a few minutes because of his knee problems. Bird was playing with a bad back. Everybody on that team was beat up, and they still almost beat him. And if you look at it, you can't touch the 1986 Celtics. I mean, the 1986 Celtics are a team that had Larry Bird, who'd won his third straight MVP. He won the Finals MVP. You had two guys on the all-defensive team. You had Bill Walton, who was the sixth man of the year. It was the last year, one of the only years that he could do much. They won more games than the 87 Celtics. But if you look at it, the entire starting five for the Celtics averaged in double figures. When you look at the backups, you had Jerry Sheasting, who was a all-star once or twice with the Pacers. Bill Walton, who's one of the greatest centers of all time. You had Scott Wedman, who was a multiple in Kansas City. Hell, he was one of the leading scorers in the NBA a couple years in a row. So they're 8 deep on guys that were NBA All-Stars. You got 4 Hall of Famers. You got the greatest player that ever lived in Larry Bird. You got maybe the
I
most,
disagree.
Then what do you disagree with?
That Larry Bird's the greatest player of all time. But anyway,
Really?
continue.
Okay, why do you say that it
Magic was better than Bird. Magic
Really?
was better than Bird.
Magic was better than
Yeah.
Bird, huh? What? How?
Yeah. Better passer.
He was a better passer?
Shot the ball pass.
Wait a second.
Shot the ball
wait a
better.
second. Wait a second. Larry Bird is maybe the greatest forward passing the ball in NBA history. Magic Johnson, they're both great passers.
They're both great.
To me, there's not hardly any difference in between the two, except Larry Bird could shoot the ball better than any man that ever lived with the game on the line, including Steph Curry for all the 19-year-olds out there that don't know shit.
Well, Larry Bird's definitely better than Steph Curry.
And Larry Bird is definitely a better shooter than Magic Johnson. I mean, Larry Bird's field goal percentage. Wait a second. Larry Bird's field goal percentage in 1986 was like 50%. He shot 50%. He shot 90% from the free throw line. He averaged 7 assists a game. He averaged 3 steals a game. Hell, he averaged a block a game. He averaged 10 rebounds a game. Scored 26 points a game. And when you put him with McHale, I mean, the greatest pair of forwards that have ever been on one team. I mean, McHale was a dude that was almost unstoppable. You got Dennis Johnson, who is in the Hall of Fame. Oh, Dennis Johnson wasn't very good?
Mike.
What?
No, Mike, I played against McHale and Worthy in college. I shut them both down.
I know you did.
All right.
That's why you're on here with
Steve
us right
Ridley's
now.
better than both of them. Steve Ridley's
Ridley
better
is
than
the
both
greatest
of them.
basketball player that ever lived.
Shut Worthy down in the championship game. Dawkins shut Jordan down. I shut Worthy down.
Dawkins shut
All
Jordan
right.
down.
Well, that's what Dawkins claims.
Dawkins is
so
out
I'm going
of
to run
his
with
friggin'
Dawkins.
mind. This is the thing,
Dawkins
now.
but
this is my point about
if
Bird.
you take a slow white guy like me, you can shut down McHale and Worthy in college. I don't think those are 2 of the greatest players of all time.
Oh, no, they're not.
If I can shut them down.
No. I mean, hell, you know what? You got the guy that's on there that, as a freshman, beat out Michael Jordan for the high school basketball team, telling everybody he's better than Jordan. Luckily, Kevin McHale got to play with Larry Bird, and this is my difference. Larry Bird made everybody better. So did Magic, but not like Bird. Bird took Indiana State to the national championship game. Bird then comes to Boston, Lucas, and goes to a team that was 30-52 and has him in the conference final his first year, the NBA finals his second year, and he wins it all. Now, people will say, well, you know, he had guys like Robert Parrish. Robert Parrish was considered a lazy malcontent with the Golden State Warriors. The Celtics pick him up. He becomes a Hall of Famer. Dennis Johnson was considered a guy that was done. His career was over. He comes to the Celtics. He becomes an all-defensive player. He becomes a Hall of Famer and averages 16 points a game. Guys like Sheasting, Walton, Wedman, all were at the end of their careers. They come with Bird, and they become great. And let's face it, when you look at Kevin McHale's career, when Bird started having the back problems in the late 80s, Kevin McHale wasn't as good as he was at one point. So I think when you compared the two, I would take Larry a little bit over Magic, and I'm sticking to that.
Okay, Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Wait, hang on, Lucas. I got a question.
Yeah,
Can I
go
ask
ahead.
you a question? Is this conversation about the greatest team of all time or the greatest player? Because all you're doing is harping on Bird. We give you that. Bird's
That's
a great
'cause
player. He's one of the 2 best
is the one
players.
that said that. Lucas's claim was
Well,
that Larry Bird was not.
It's
that
a
good.
toss-up between Magic and Bird. I see qualities for both of them.
But
they're
that's
both
kind of
arguably
the
the
team
2 best
thing.
players who play the game.
When you look at these
The team thing,
teams,
You know that now how are you measuring it? Are you measuring on a championship won, or how are you measuring it?
You can't really measure championships won. They've won 3.
No, you can't, because 7 of the 10 players with the most championship rings in the NBA are all Celtics from the 60s Celtics teams.
Who played nobody.
7 of 10.
Except for the Lakers.
And then what's interesting on the top 7? Robert Horry has 7 championship rings.
And nobody's talking about
that.
Wait a second. You just asked me why I brought up Bird. Why are you bringing up rings? Nobody here brought up rings except for you.
Well, I don't know how else you'd measure a great team than winning championships. I mean, I think
you got to measure it
talk about
what they
individual statistics
beat and who they played too.
Well, at the time when they were playing, the Celtics of the 60s were playing. They were beating the best competition available to them at that time.
Yeah.
Would they win 11 championships today? No, probably not. But in their day and era of playing and the level that they were playing against, they did. So it's almost, like I said, it's very difficult to say that the 86 Celtics were better than the 60 Celtics. I mean,
really.
They didn't win. They won 3. And I love the 86 Celtics. I love the Lakers in that run. That saved basketball in the NBA. Those 2 teams single-handedly saved the game of NBA basketball. And they were relatively as important to the NBA then as the 60 Celtics were at that point in time. But to say one team is better, the only thing I could measure them on is championships won. And when the Celtics put in a team of Hall of Famers again, including Russell, Jones, Heinsohn, K.C. Jones, Havlicek, Cousy, these guys all played in that era, and they're all in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They're all Hall of Fame players too. Bill Russell, yeah. I mean, McHale's not in the Hall of Fame. Cece's not in the Hall of Fame. A lot of the guys in that Celtics team are not Hall of Fame players. They got with one Hall of Fame player who elevated their game, and Larry is special. Like they said in Space Jam, Larry's not white, he's clear. He has no color. He's just a great player. And he elevated the Celtics single-handedly, no doubt.
Okay.
But I don't want to say that they're the greatest team of all time. He's one of the greatest players. But to say that they're the greatest team,
Steve, counting
Kevin
McHale.
Well, the
there's Hall of
Celtics
Famers. There's players in the Hall of Fame who are head scratchers. Come on, it shouldn't be the only parameter to measure a team's success.
No, it's not. But
no, I brought that up. I brought that up. That's on me.
Yeah, but Kevin McHale is in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
is he?
Yeah.
Is he in the Hall of Fame? Is he in the NBA Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay. Well, that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Okay.
In my opinion, that's a stretch. And I played against Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
So that's a stretch.
In college, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
Ralph Sampson destroyed him in the NIT final in 1980. I would say that my guess is by the time they were 3 or 4 years into the NBA careers, I think Kevin McHale was a lot better than Ralph Sampson. Not that Kevin McHale was better than you. I'm not saying that, but
no, he was better than me.
No, I was.
And he was a better player than Ralph Sampson too.
Yeah. Well, Ralph Sampson wasn't that good.
I just don't know how you measure. What's another question we got?
Hold on.
We had 7 questions.
All right, we've got comments. Stephen Corder believes that the Bulls were the greatest of all time, but that was the team he saw play. Joe Rodriguez makes the point that today's officiating makes it very tough. If you put any of the teams in the 80s and 90s with that officiating, they come crashing down to earth, literally, talking about the Golden State Warriors. I think it's just
disagree
a
with
toughness thing. It's a toughness. Nah, they would.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. If you take the bad boys of the late 80s and put them against the Golden State Warriors with Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, there's not going to be a whole bunch of open threes. They take the ball to the hole, Dennis Rodman's knocking them on their ass. I think it does change the way they have to play.
Well, okay, in that way it does.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know if Golden State could beat that. The bad boys. I don't know if Golden State could handle the bad boys.
I don't think they could.
I
think this is all about.
I don't think they could either.
I think it's all about matchups.
Yeah.
If you take Golden State and put them against the Celtics team you talked about in the 60s, they don't have the length from their guards to be able to guard Golden State. So when you match teams up against each other, you're kind of right where you kind of got to just go and pick with who was most dominant at their time. The only reason I don't put the 60s in there is because that was a really bad time for the NBA. In the
right.
80s,
It was.
In the 80s, you had
For a
all
great
kinds of
time.
super teams. I mean, in the 80s, you
Right,
had the Celtics,
right.
the Lakers, the 76ers.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the decade, you throw in Dallas
Right.
and Utah, who started to
It's
come
the
around.
goal.
To me, that's why the
Yeah.
86 Celtics and 87 Lakers are 1-2. It's just the fact that I think they played against the best competition, and they were dominant. I mean, the Boston team, if you look at it, to me, in 1986, winning 67 games is more impressive than in a era where you have expansion teams that the 96 Bulls maybe won 92 games or 72 games, and the Golden State Warriors won 73. Yeah, that's what I said, 72.
Yeah. Remember this too, Mike. The Celtics of the 60s did not have the three-point shot. So, it's a lot easier to get guys like Curry out there right now. The Celtics of the 60s had to use teamwork and work the ball a lot more to score than the Golden State Warriors right now. They've got three-point shooters out there, yin yang, and Kyle Kuzma for Cleveland. He's a specialist. The only reason Kuzma's on that team, or not, no, it's not Kuzma. Who's the guy, the white three-point shooter for the Celtics or Cleveland?
Oh, Korver?
Kyle Korver.
Kyle Korver. Yeah, Kyle Kuzma. Yeah. I mean, the whole job on that team is to shoot threes, and he's great at it. He's maybe the best three-point shooter other than Curry in the game right now. But back then, you didn't have the luxury of having a three-point shot to get yourself back in the game. You had to finesse and work a little bit more at that point in time than today. You just stand out there and bomb all day long. And I think the defense is a little stronger. And the defense was stronger in the 80s, and I think the defense was probably stronger in the 60s than the defense is right now. I don't see a lot of defense in the NBA being played.
There's no.
Yeah, and I think this.
And I think Golden State capitalizes on that like no tomorrow, because they just stand out there, and Curry is probably the greatest three-point shooter in the history of the NBA, along with Reggie Miller, in terms of clutch situations. But, there's nobody guarding him. He's sitting out there popping open threes from 25 foot, and you can't tell me that a good defensive team can shut him down. And he's easier to shut down than Bob Cousy, because Cousy was multi-talented in many facets of the game. Now, again, we're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah,
I'm going to stick by my guns on that one.
When you compare the apples to the oranges, I mean, hell, if you put that Lakers team, I mean, how the hell Bob Cousy going to guard the point guard for the Lakers?
How's he going to guard Magic Johnson? Exactly. No.
But then again, everybody had that problem. And my point here is everybody talks about how there was no defense in the 80s. I think there was defense. I think the difference was this.
No, I think it was great defense in the 80s.
There was great defense.
You had teams averaging in the hundreds because guys could hit the mid-range jumper. Anymore today, it's either you're taking it to the hole and you're dunking it or you're shooting a three. Back then, you had to be able to guard from 10 to 15 feet away from the basket a lot harder than just guarding a three.
Mike, I would say that the great defense of the 80s is what shortened Bird's career. I mean, Bird punished himself. Bird punished himself the way he played the game, and then everybody else punished him because Larry wasn't fleet of foot, and he was, easy to guard in terms of staying up with him. Now, he was so magical with the basketball that you were screwed the minute he got it in his hands, but he was, people just played him physical because he didn't have the fleet of speed that Magic had, or that James Worthy had, or that some of the speeders had, the quick guys in the game. And I think that the way defense was played in the 80s, it shortened Larry's career. The pounding just finally got to him because he played the game hard. And, I had played against Larry in summer ball, never in a competitive game. But I'll tell you what, he was physical every time he was on the court. He played very physical, hard-nosed basketball. That's all how he knew how to do. And he had incredible talent to go with that. Which is a rare thing. Somebody that plays hard and is talented.
Yeah. So, I think this, Steve, you're right. It's hard to compare eras. It's hard to compare decades. Yeah. But just from watching those teams, and maybe it's just because I'm old and that was what I grew up with, but just to watch the physical play, the way those guys went after it,
right.
I don't see that when I watch basketball today.
Yeah.
Not at all anymore.
And my fondest memories of the NBA are the Celtics and Lakers in the 80s.
Oh, especially
duking it out.
The 84 finals.
I mean, I don't think I ever missed a minute of that back then when that was going on. And that was the golden era of NBA basketball.
Yeah,
was Bird and Johnson.
Hey, the funniest thing about this is this. I watched Game 4 the other day, Steve, and the play where McHale clotheslines Rambis. That wasn't even a technical.
I remember that,
It was a two-shot foul. I mean, today
it's great.
they would have kicked him out of the game.
Yeah, I think McHale did the same thing to me in college too. He was good at that.
You sure it wasn't you doing it to McHale?
No. I was in awe of Kevin McHale in college. The Knight made sure I was in awe of him. So he was great. He was a great college player.
I thought you said you kicked his ass.
Well, I didn't say I wasn't a great college player.
Okay. Lucas, was Steve a great college player? That's the next question. We're going to run a poll. We're going to run a poll on the Grueling Truth Facebook page. Was Steve Raisley a great college player?
I'll say yes because I'm a guest on the show. Don't want to get.
Don't want to get.
Don't want to get in Steve's bad books.
You're 22. You've never even seen the 1981 National Championship game.
That is very true. I
go back to the fact that in 1981 Isaiah and I combined for 26 points to lead Indiana to the national championship in '81 over a North Carolina team that was stacked with Sam Perkins, Worthy, Black, Pepper, Matt Doherty, who went on to become a great coach and is now the assistant commissioner for the Big East basketball, and Dean Smith, arguably one of the greatest coaches.
Yeah.
Isaiah and I put together 26 points to derail that team.
Okay.
Stellar stuff.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
But, Mike, if I may mention, I don't even think the Warriors team right now is even in the top 5 greatest teams of all time.
I don't either.
I don't think so. I think for me, the top 3 teams are 87 Lakers, 96 Bulls, 86 Celtics.
I just don't see the Bulls being there just because I don't think they had an inside presence. I mean, you got Luke Longley, Bill Winnington. I mean, if you put them up against the 95 Rockets or the 94 Rockets, if Jordan doesn't retire and he's got to play Hakeem, I think that can change a lot of the way that he's looked at.
They were second in the league in holding opponents in the 96 season to 92.9 points per game behind the Pistons.
Yeah, but this is the thing. They didn't play a team with a really good offensive center, did they? Because basically
96?
Yeah, centers kind of died out. I mean, you had Shaq. That was about it. And if I remember right, Shaq took it out pretty easy in 95. Alonzo Mourning was not a great offensive center. He was a great defensive center. Patrick Ewing was a great defensive center. These weren't offensive centers like Hakeem Olajuwon, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, guys like that. I mean, offensive centers kind of died when Hakeem Olajuwon left. I mean, you had David Robinson, but I don't think I don't think any center that's ever lived has been in Hakeem Olajuwon's realm as an offensive player or as an all-around center.
I agree with you there.
No, I agree.
Now, you told me the other day it was Shaq. You told me it was Shaq the other day. I was leading you into the slaughter, and then you changed your mind.
Shaq's great, too. Shaq's undoubtedly great, too. I think Shaq was an awful free throw shooter, but I think Shaq had a real inside presence. He was great. I think for me, if you look at the statistics of the Bulls, it's just, look, and you could say, they didn't, the competition, wasn't the same, but it's just crazy.
Wasn't.
I mean, 33 road wins, 10.9 average margin of victory on the road. Their average margin of victory was 15 points per game, the highest in NBA history. Their point differential was 12.2. The 86 Celtics point differential was 9.4.
Yeah, because they played against better competition.
Right, and aside from LeBron, Jordan is the most protected player in the history of the NBA. LeBron may be the only player who's more protected by referees than Jordan was. And Jordan was an incredible, talented player. But I'm going to go on a limb here and tell you what I think of the Golden State Warriors. I think right now you can put them down as the best team money has bought in the NBA.
Why is that?
I
don't buy that. I mean, if you look at their 5 starters, 3 of them were drafted by them, and they weren't even top 10 picks. I mean,
and then they paid like hell. They paid like hell to keep them together. So they're buying them to keep them together. So, and, bringing on DeMarcus Cousins, I still don't see the total value in that. I think the risk reward there is 50-50 at best.
But, and Steve, Boogie Cousins has an Achilles injury. He's probably not gonna be available till January. They're saying
January, yeah.
And you look at Achilles injuries; it's probably one of the worst injuries in the NBA for a player to have. So you don't know if he's gonna recover, and it's why they only signed him for a year, because I agree with you. I think they had something going there with the guys they had. You bring a guy with Boogie Cousins with a checkered past in the locker room. You don't know if that'll disturb things, because Kevin Durant, they only signed him for, I think, a year. He's not making a lot of money. He's going to want a max contract down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if Durant leaves to join LeBron in Los Angeles.
Well, Durant just signed 2 years at $61.5 million, which is chump change compared to what the real superstars are getting. When you look at what LeBron and what Chris Paul are getting.
Hey, real quick, to get back on track, I do have a question, Lucas. The second best team in 1996 was the Seattle Supersonics. Were they a great team?
Correct.
Were they a great team? Were they a great team? Yeah.
I mean, they had.
You're not going to answer my question. What do you think this is? Like MSNBC? Were they a great team? Huh?
I think they were a good team.
Okay,
they were
now,
a good team. They weren't like the team. They were.
Listen, hold on. This is headed down a path to make me look good. So you got to play along. All right, now, in 1987, you think the '87 Lakers were the greatest team of all time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, they won 65 games. The 1996 Seattle Supersonics won 64 games. They were a good team that had won almost as many games as the team you think was the greatest team ever. And why? Because the competition was crap. That is the same reason the Bulls won 72 games. They won 72 the same year the Seattle won 64. If you look at Boston, what? Go ahead.
Look, I just think I agree with you, but you still have to admire. They still did it. You could argue that the Golden State Warriors in 2017 were better and they are much better than the team that won 73 games. Does that mean that? But the team in 2017 won fewer games.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I just think you got to reward a team that went 72 games, regardless of competition. They still had the players to do it. They still had talented players on the team: Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr. They still had talented players.
Keep going.
It's not like they're playing college.
You named like
it's not like they're playing college
teams. Keep going. You don't have to stop. You named 3 great players: Pippen, Jordan, Rodman. Who else you got?
Well, Jordan is like 2 superstars in one.
Well, that gives
I mean,
you 4.
at the end of the day, the guy had Billy Worthington.
Billy Wennington was his name, and he averaged 6 points a game.
Wennington, sorry.
Okay.
But I mean, he was, but at the end of but look, I just think in the, with the history of the NBA, when you're talking about the all-time great teams, you can't just brush over the Bulls. I think you can't. They were combined regular season and postseason 87 and 13. Their winning percentage in the playoffs was 87%. The 86 Celtics had a winning percentage in the playoffs of 83.6%. Now, again, you're going to go back to the competition, but it's like Michael Jordan was unstoppable.
So was Larry Bird. That's why he was the NBA MVP. Wait a second. That's the other thing. How about this? In 1986, Larry Bird averaged 26 points a game on 19 shots. Tell me what Jordan did in 1996. He averaged like 31 points a game on 29 shots. So who's dominant there and who's just shooting the ball a lot and scoring a lot of points?
Well, I would say they were both dominant. I mean, they were both dominant on their team.
Yeah, but don't you think you'd better have the guy that takes 10 less shots to get that amount of points? Just as a general assumption, I mean, it seems to me that a guy that shoots 50% for the entire year and shoots the ball an awful lot is pretty good. And if you look at the competition in the playoffs, they lost 2 games to Seattle. They lost a game to New York, I think. But when you look at the 86 Celtics, I mean, this is the thing. The 86 Celtics played, the Milwaukee Bucks in the conference finals. Milwaukee was a 58-win team that had guys like Sidney Moncrief, Terry Cummings, Marcus Johnson, and they swept them. All right? They played an Atlanta Hawks team with Dominique Wilkins, who wasn't a bad player. But you know what really is? And they lost 1 game that entire 3 series there. They swept the Celtics, or they swept the Bulls with Jordan. And I know it doesn't mean much because their team wasn't that good, but every time he played Larry Bird in the championship, he lost. Even when he scored 63 points, he lost. And then after a sweep of the Bulls, then he plays the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks won 52 games that year. Were led by Dominique Wilkins, one of the greatest offensive players you're ever going to find. They beat him 4-1. They played the Milwaukee Bucks, and they swept the Bucks. They averaged 120 points a game and won by an average of 20 points a game. They played the Rockets, which is a 4-2. The Rockets had Olajuwon, Sampson. Who was the guard they had? Robert Reed. Who was the little bald-headed guard they got? I don't remember his name, but it was Alvin something. But, I mean, they were a good team. And if you looked at this, the 4 games the Celtics won, they won 1 close one. The other 4 games they won by an average of 16 points in the NBA Finals. So I think if you compare the teams that they beat in the Finals 4-2, I don't think Seattle's as good as a Houston team with Hakeem Olajuwon in his prime.
No, I would. Look, I would definitely agree with that. But I would also say that Michael in '96 also faced decent players too. I mean, he beat Miami in 3 games, facing Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway.
Wait a second. We're going to compare Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway in the first round to Michael Jordan, or to Dominique Wilkins, or to Sidney Moncrief.
No. But I'm not saying. But they're not scrubbed, Mike. They're not scrubbed. They're not like they're not like the Sacramento Kings of today.
Tim Hardaway was a good player. Yeah. Dominique Wilkins was a great player. Sidney Moncrief was a great player. Michael Jordan was a great player.
They beat the New York Knicks in 5. They beat the New York Knicks in 5 games that had Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Oakley, a good physical defensive
once again,
team.
A good defensive team that couldn't score.
But they're still good players. I'm not saying, and look, I give
but I'm
you
just
with
saying
the Celtics.
You can compare them to the Milwaukee Bucks of 1986. I'm just saying the competition.
Hey, Mike,
look, these are all
Mike,
like.
another team,
go ahead, Steve.
Another team we haven't even broached on yet. Really, and they made a great run where the Spurs, starting in '99, all the way to 2007. I mean, at that point in time, that was a pretty darn good basketball team. See, they won 3 NBA championships in that span, and came back and won another one in 2014. So. And they had some great players on. San Antonio was a pretty darn good basketball club in that run, too. I think they won their first championship in '99, and then they went on. Lakers took 3 in a row, and then San Antonio came on and won 2 more of the next 3 years. Talk about the San Antonio, where they fit into the whole process. I mean, that team, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, that team was loaded. Ginobili.
But
that was a pretty dominant team in that era too.
A team I think gets left out is a team that beat one of those was the 2004 Detroit Pistons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they took down
Big Ben Wallace.
When the Lakers were stacked.
They
Chauncey
took the Lakers
Billups,
down. Yeah.
Richard Hamilton, Lindsey Hunter,
Deshaun Prince.
Yeah, Rasheed Wallace.
But I would say with the Spurs, I mean, they're obviously great. I mean, they're definitely up there too in terms of the modern teams. And this is why I don't think Golden State fits in there, because I obviously grew up, with the Lakers of the early 2000s, the Spurs, and now, of course, the Golden State Warriors. And I just think, again, history will tell a lot of things in terms of what the Warriors do. I think they need to win a few more championships for us to have a real, conversation about where they fit in the all-time great teams. But I would say of the 21st century, you got to put the Lakers of the early 2000s and then the Spurs.
Yeah.
Well,
but the Lakers were pretty good with Kobe and Shaq.
Kobe and Shaq, Robert Horry,
they won a ton of them.
Yeah. Another team that
and
I
the
really
Lakers
liked, it was just for 1 year, would have been the '83 Sixers. I know Steve remembers those when they added Moses Malone and
yeah, they were a great ball club. Yeah, it's really funny, Mike. You know how you talk to anybody who's older than 22 years old. Most people don't find the Bulls or Jordan to be the greatest teams or greatest players. People who have actually watched NBA beyond its marketing years and saw the 80s and saw the 70s play, and people that are old enough to have seen all that don't really consider Jordan or the Bulls to be the greatest player or the greatest teams. They were the dominant team of their era. But I've rarely, other than you talk to somebody like Lukas who's just young and kind of was weaned and grew up on Jordan and the Bulls. Other than that, most people
Lukas
like you and me are older.
Lukas actually picked the '87 Lakers, though. I'm impressed by Lukas today.
No, I did because I think Matt, because I really think the whole lineup, I think top to bottom, as we pointed out today, was better than the Bulls lineup top to bottom. I think, we can debate Magic Michael but the Lakers lineup top to bottom was just, and especially inside, better than the Bulls.
Yeah, well, that's why I go with the 60s Celtics, because virtually every player who's consistently played on that team is a Hall of Famer, is in the Hall of Fame. And be it because they won 11 championships, be it because, they were whatever. But that team produced more Hall of Famers, more championships in their era. And I give you, Mike, that the era was different. I definitely do. But I still think when you just compare teams, it's their dominance and what was a great team, because you can't let Babe Ruth play against Hank Aaron. You have to do these comparisons. And you have to measure on success. And nobody was ever been successful as that Lakers team in the 60s. The Celtics team in the 60s. I think if you're talking about for a 1 year run, then I think you look at, for a 1 year run, you look at the Celtics or the Lakers in the 86, 87 era, right in that time frame. For a 1 year run, but for the span of a dominant team over a period of time, it's really hard to not look at that 60s Celtics franchise with what they produced. And, I've played the game, and Mike, you've coached the game at a level to know that when you start winning a lot, the bullseye on your back grows immensely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people get up higher to play you. They get up more to play you. In Indiana, the bullseye on our back, wherever we showed up, was huge, just because we were Indiana. Mm-hmm. And it was a bigger bullseye. So we every single night, we got the best effort of everybody. Knight always laughed when we got beat by somebody like a Pan America, and he would say, he would after he got done tearing us a new rear end, he would say, the sad part about it is they'll go back to being mediocre next game. They rose to the occasion to play us. Why can't they play at that level all the time? And I think that 60s Celtics team played that level all the time. I think for the year, and for most of the 80s, that Lakers and Celtics franchises with Bird and Johnson played at that level all the time.
Well, and the thing is this, Steve, the only reason I go with those guys is because they had to play with each other. Because if they didn't have to compete,
that's so true.
If only one of them was there,
that's true.
Right.
They'd have 7 championships.
It's very true. And that's what makes that era the greatest era of NBA basketball.
For sure.
The fact that Bird and Johnson duked it out for 5, 6, 7 years in a row against each other. And it was just enjoyable to watch.
Hey, the funniest thing The funniest thing I saw was they had somebody on this Facebook page. It's called like Clutch Points NBA. There's like 250,000 people on it. But this dude posted on there his 10 most influential players of all time. And he had number 1, Allen Iverson, and number 2, Steph Curry. And then there's like 500 comments of other people listing their top 10. And Allen Iverson is like in the top 2 for everybody. And the highest anybody had Larry Bird was number 9. And the most influential players of all time were Bird and Magic. Without Bird and Magic in the 1979 NCAA championship, we don't have March Madness the way it is today, and we don't have the NBA the way it is today. And
no doubt. But Mike,
no arguments.
I would just add that, I think this is the problem with a lot of young people who tune into sports. I think young people are too prisoner of the moment. They think, very presently, and they don't study the game. And and for me, I have, looked back and I've watched highlights of, those players, and I understand the impact that Bird and Magic made on the game. And I just think that, people saying that Allen Iverson was me, myself, and Iverson. I mean, that's what he was. I mean, no doubt, great talent,
well, maybe
but not an
him,
influential player.
Yeah, but maybe that does make him one of the most influential players, because from 2000 on, we've seen a lot of that. So it may not have to be a good influence to put him there.
He's I mean, I think people also put him up there because of his practice rant in the post game conference that he said practice 20 times.
Hey, this is
so
the thing. The one thing about Allen Iverson is I still think he took the worst team ever to the NBA Finals with that 01 76er team.
Yeah, my Toronto Raptors beat the Sixers. Jeez.
To shut that argument up, let me ask you guys both a question. If everything being equal, and we're all doing it today, and everybody's at their prime, okay, everybody that ever played in the NBA is at their prime, physicality, ability, age, everything's all equal, and you had to start a new franchise. Lucas, who's the first player you draft? Just one player. Who's the first player you pick to be on your team?
Magic.
Mike?
Bird with Magic right behind him.
And mine would be Magic. I think that answers it right there in terms of that Iverson's name doesn't come up. I mean, Jabbar's name doesn't come up.
Jordan's name doesn't come up.
Olajuwon's name doesn't come in. You look at, you say, everything's equal. All players are at their prime ability. And who is the first player if you had
I think you need a point guard. I think a point guard's a real important.
I just think this with Bird
then I would go Jordan.
I'm just saying.
No, Jordan can't go before Bird. That's stupid.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't take Jordan over Bird.
See, this thing about Larry Bird, we get all these people that hate on Larry Bird. Let's face it, the reason Larry Bird is hardly mentioned when you talk about the greatest player of all time is because he's a white American. It's just the way it is. I mean, if you're a white American, you're treated differently when it comes to sports. And I'm not talking about racism like black people have to face and stuff like that. But if you look at it, Rex Burkhead, who's a hell of a running back, he was with the Bengals forever, played great when they'd let him play. But they always started other guys in front of him until somebody gave him a chance in New England, and he did great. Larry Bird, the big determining factor is this. People considered that he couldn't play defense, he could just shoot the ball, and he was basically just a slow white guy with no talent. And if you look back at the interviews from players that played against him, there's very few that don't say he's the greatest player they ever played against. And I think this, with Bird and Magic, I think you had the two smartest basketball players that have ever existed.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think this. I think you have those two guys there, guys that I think will do whatever it takes to win. And with Bird and Magic, right. I think Bird was willing to give up more. I mean, Bird's body was beat up because how many guys did you see in the NBA from the 1980s to now that's bouncing off the deck, off the ground at a Boston Garden, which, I mean, if you've never been to the Boston Garden.
Terrible court.
The court was horrible.
Terrible court.
Oh, yeah.
Half-inch gaps in between the parquet.
Yep.
And he's smacking face first off of there. Going in the locker room with a concussion, coming out with a quarter left against the Pacers, down by 12, and drops like 26 in the fourth quarter and wins the game with a concussion.
Yeah.
That's why I want him over anybody else. But I'll take Magic next. And I would not want Jordan, because Jordan would be one of my 5 guys too. But, and I mean, I know people get mad at me when I say it, but if I think Michael Jordan's the fifth greatest player out of the thousands upon thousands of players that ever played, how can that be being disrespectful to him? It's just my opinion.
You're right. Good point, Mike.
You have the other right to your opinion.
Yeah, and just like Lucas, you have a right to be wrong, and you're wrong here. Larry Bird was the greatest player.
Nah.
All right.
I got to admit, Lucas, I got to admit, today you were kind of like a steerman on the Titanic. You were realizing you were sinking and you had no hope of getting on a lifeboat.
Nah, come on, guys.
You went down today.
No. Magic.
Lucas, I have an assignment. Lucas, as a guest, I have an assignment for you now. I want you to map out the Iditarod course, and I want you to do live reports from the Iditarod when it starts here in October, I think. Doesn't that thing usually start in October?
Yes.
But I think that'd be a great thing for
what I want is this. I want
him
on a sled. You need to be on a sled in this race.
On a sled.
The grueling truth.
Live reporting on a sled.
At the Iditarod. And I want an interview with a different dog every day. Not just the lead dog. I want all the dogs to feel included. Because this is all about feelings and diversity, and I want to make sure every dog, even the slow dog, the slow fat dog, would rather just sit and lick himself. I even want him interviewed.
And to prepare for it, I want you to watch 8 Below. Watch the movie, the movie 8 Below before you prepare for it. So.
All right. So Lucas will be in the Iditarod.
Good discussion. So do we all agree that I was right, that it's the Celtics of the 60s were the most dominant team of all time? No.
So
Lakers 87.
As soon as you can explain
that's the beauty
to me,
of sports.
Hey, as soon as you can explain to me how Tommy Heinsohn is going to guard Dennis Johnson, then we'll have a conversation. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I want to thank Steve and Lucas. We'll be back tomorrow at noon talking about something. So make sure you come back and join us. Make sure you check out Replenishing Care. Also, if you want a grueling truth, Where the Legends Speak T-shirts, you could go to our Facebook page and click on the link there. It's pinned at the top of the page. TheCincyShirts.com is the one doing that. And guys, we've actually sold a fair amount of shirts, I was told, in the first couple days. Of course, Lucas bought 27 of them to get the numbers up. So make sure you check that out to help support the Grueling Truth. Part of that money comes to us. Part goes to Cincy Shirts. I want to remind everybody you can follow us on Twitter at Survive the Magic, or you can type in Survive in Advance, find it. Also follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. Follow us on our Facebook page for all of our polls, our articles, all the funny little videos that Steve comes up with. Make sure you come on there. It'll make your day because Steve comes up with some things that are just really hilarious. All right, guys. Remember, you can hear us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Lukas Weese, Steve Raisley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.